Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Universal Journeys Radio with your hosts, Dr. Brenda L. Bates and Donnie Winter. Follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. Universal Journeys Radio is about how spirituality intersects with nearly every other aspect of our lives, even when we do not see it or realize it. Creativity and expression are our connections to the spiritual energy many seek to understand, and our identity is forged through this process. Universal Journey seeks to help illuminate the different intersections between creativity, spirituality, and identity in order to empower and enlighten. Tonight, our topic is what creativity can do for us, and if you want to call in and chat with us or ask questions, our number is 347-850-8292. Good evening, Brenda, dear.
Good evening. You did a wonderful job.
Yay, I finally got it right. My day would not be normal if I did not get tongue-tied at least once, just saying. I think it shows, I think it just demonstrates a degree of classiness in some awkward way.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Okay, so tonight is the Donnie Speaks episode. So since creativity is such an important aspect of my life, and since it connects distinctively to my spirituality, I thought it'd be interesting for us to have a discussion about how creativity heals us and creates balance in our lives. We may not notice that it does this, but it does. And the first example that I can think about, I've actually been doing a research paper about how Native American poetry heals the Native American community from the historical trauma or the personal trauma that they've experienced. And I looked back on my life and I realized that whenever I have gone through something difficult, that I have resorted to writing poetry as a means of coping with those difficult situations. And Brenda, I was just wondering, have you ever experienced anything like this too? When you go through something difficult, I guess, do you heal through creativity? Do you use creativity to create balance?
Well, I would have to say yes. In many different ways, actually, because when I feel out of balance with spirituality, especially because this is my passion, I have to go and search for something that will make me a little more balanced than I am, so I can take that next step to becoming even more balanced. Yeah, you can go out there and try to ground, you can try to meditate and, listen to music, but sometimes it doesn't work. I remember several times where I just fell out of place, and this still sounds funny, but I watched, a couple movies or so of Harry Potter. And when that was done, then I went to Lord of the Rings. It got me back into that energy again. And then you got the Star Wars trilogies and stuff. So, yeah, there's different ways of doing that.
Interesting. So you're saying that creativity is also in the movies and the TV shows that we watch, and I think
absolutely.
And I think that when we watch these stories taking place, we connect ourselves to the story in some way. I remember when I watched the third Hobbit movie, and I know I probably told you about this and went on and on about this, but why not say it now? I watched the Hobbit movie, and there were some different scenes in it that were very emotionally jarring, and I remember being so unbelievably sad after it was over because, it was over. And I think, creativity can make a person feel happy or sad. I mean, and feeling sad isn't necessarily a bad thing because one has to come to terms with that sad feeling and understand why they're feeling it. I was so sad because, the movies were ending. I didn't have any new chance to be in that world, but then I realized afterward that if I really want to be in that world, I can choose to be in that world. whether it be through rewatching the movies, through writing about it, or through using my imagination. I feel like as humans, like our imaginations, they are what connects us to the spiritual world. They help us connect to the higher plane, and they help us take information that we connect with in that higher plane and put it into our own creativity.
Mhm. Mhm. We have a friend that's actually now with us. Hi, Jane.
I am there, huh?
You are
Hello.
here. Well,
I didn't know. I was like coughing and.
Yes, I got that.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. But Jane actually has a lot to say about the creativity and getting back into balance and stuff like that as well. She may not realize that she does, but she does. I mean, she's done a lot of artwork. She's, again, she's authored a couple books. I would say a couple books, and some are still in the process. So when you need to balance, Jane, what do you do to balance?
Interesting question. To balance, I guess for me, when I'm frustrated, when I'm at wit's end and I'm frustrated with life, what grounds me is to get out my sketch pad and sketch, or to get out a piece of lined paper and write poetry, or write a story, or something like that. That I need to get the creative outlet in order for me to feel relief. Funny story, a few years ago, several years ago actually, I had a horrible breakup with a man that I was seeing. I was only seeing him for a year or so, but I was really upset with the way that the relationship had to end. And my best friend tells me, well, go draw something for God's sakes. So I have this little bluebird that I draw, and it's just a sweet little bluebird, and I've been drawing it for years in different poses and doing different things. And so I started sketching this bluebird. Next thing I know, I'm putting a butcher knife in the wing of this bluebird.
Oh!
And I'm thinking, okay, I think we got a little bit to get off your chest there, babe. Wow.
Wow is right.
But I start sketching and stuff, or I start writing, and I don't even realize, like I'm just doing it. I'm not conscious of what I'm doing. I'm just doing. I mean, I've written poetry and stuff before, or stories, and then the next morning, or I will look at it and go, holy crap, I wrote that? I don't even remember writing that. Because
that goes... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, because that's part of that creative, creative writing type of deal. You just allow it to whatever it do, and that's not just creative writing, but when you're drawing the same thing, you have that same type of creativity that comes in there. And what you guys are doing, and what I do in my movies, when I watch movies, is I get out of myself. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let it go and do. And and that's what you guys are both, or all three of us, are doing. And a lot of people really do that, but they don't realize that they're doing that.
Exactly. The difficult thing for me, just being in academia, they're very, I'm just going to be honest, they're very hell-bent on getting you to hone your creative process, to chisel down your writing, and to take away, I think, important elements that come with the, spontaneous creativity. And for me, the balance has been trying to stay true to myself while at the same time trying to meet these different accommodations. And I think that's why people don't necessarily allow creativity to help them heal all the time because they feel like people are always judging their creativity or critiquing it or telling them what they should and should not do. I'm sure you both have experienced situations like that before.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, too, it's not only worried about other people judging it, you step back and then you judge it yourself, and that really squashes it.
Definitely.
And I mean, even doing, because what I do spiritually and what Donnie does and what you do, Jane, as well, spiritually, to help other people, when they don't give you confirmation or they say what you're saying to them is incorrect, that squashes your creativity as well. It makes you doubt.
Yeah.
And you have to be a strong person and say, no, I'm getting what I'm getting, and I'm going to stick to that. It took me a little bit to step out of that doubt frame of mind.
Yeah. Doubt is probably the most destructive thing that impairs creativity. I remember I was doing my bachelor's degree, and I had this Shakespeare professor, and she wanted me to show her my poetry, and I had been having some issues in the class because let's just say she was a very disrespectful person and had some very unconventional teaching styles. But anyway, I showed her my poetry, and she basically told me, like, this is a professor telling me, like, this is the first time any professor had seen my poetry. She told me that my poetry was very subpar. And in reflection to that and the class, she basically told me that some people were not meant to be in academia. And for about 1 or 2 years, that completely devastated me, and I barely wrote a thing.
Oh, my gosh.
I can relate to that. When I was in high school, I had my English lit teacher had a assignment where we had to choose from like maybe a half a dozen different songs that she had a list of, and write a paper on what we thought it was about. And the song that I chose was the Eagles' Hotel California. And so I wrote down what I thought it was, and she ended up failing me on the assignment. And I said, how can you fail me when it's my opinion? You asked me what I felt, and this is what I feel, and you failed me on that. I don't understand. And because of that, I did the same thing. I didn't write for years. I don't even know how long, but I didn't write for years. And then I was a closet writer. Then I was a closet writer, and I only wrote for me. Nobody else is going to see this.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of describes me in a way, because I was always reluctant to write anyways, because it never came out the way I wanted it to come out. And then I realized that I had dyslexia, and that's a huge thing. I keep I guess, saying that, but it gets me today. It still gets me. It's backwards. I write backwards, and it doesn't really make sense if people's going to critique what I write and how I write it, and so I can understand what you guys are saying, because I've gone through it, keep going through it.
Right. And I've discovered that people who react in that way often cannot achieve a creative state themselves. And I think this all comes back to the discussions that we've had about people, examining their, insecurities and coming to terms with them, because these people who are very judgmental of other people's writing are probably insecure themselves, and they probably had another person, judge them unfairly about their skills too. I think, in a way, I think it's kind of bullying disguised as intellectual, critique. Because I agree. I can tell you that people are always trying to criticize people everywhere. Like, I will use an example. that happened earlier today. So I was on Facebook and I posted something about happy belated Siblings Day. And I had a friend who was like, oh, you mean happy Siblings Day belated? And I'm like, excuse me? And she says, it's like the wrong grammatical structure. And I'm just like, I wasn't posting on Facebook to be grammatically correct. And then I was like, actually, if you really want to get technical, it should be belated happy Siblings Day. And I'm just like, really, people? It's Facebook. Why are you trying to critique me about my grammar? Like, you of all people should not be critiquing me on my grammar. And I guess the internet especially has been like this lawless land of, critique and unfair analysis, and I think it needs to, I think people need to stand up to something like that and be like, stop. Just stop.
Well, I think when people, it's easier for people when they have a faceless person on the other end of the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
They're just making a comment and stuff, and they just think that it's okay that person isn't a person, that it's just, that it's not a person with feelings. They're not thinking.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree.
Come to find out, that teacher that I wrote that assignment for, years later I heard an interview with one of the members of the Eagles, and he had said what that song was about, and it was actually about exactly what I said.
Wow. Don't you love it when people judge you based on your interpretation?
Yes, exactly.
Too bad that teacher didn't.
I know that she wasn't around for me to go.
That's right. And she probably wouldn't remember it either, Yeah. She probably wouldn't have remembered it.
No.
I say she because I have no idea who it was.
It was a she.
Yeah. Good guess, eh?
Regardless, it is not proper for them to do that.
Right. Well, sometimes it's not proper for people to do. Yeah. Yes. Correct.
A teacher can really make or break a class.
Definitely.
And make or break your spirit. And I don't think that they realize what kind of, I say power, but you know what I mean, what kind of impacts they are having on these people that they are teaching.
Right. See, since I just started teaching, I've discovered that teaching is a creative process as well. Like, there's a lot of creativity that goes into it, lesson planning, doing the actual lessons in class, interacting with the students. And I've realized that students need encouragement. Like, we need encouragement when we're doing our own creative projects. And because we can speak from experience that we were that student who was discouraged at one point or another, if it's especially from another teacher. Like that one example that I told you about my teacher telling me that, never in a million years would I have ever imagined a teacher saying that to a student ever.
Sure.
I don't care if the student is a hellion in class or, disrespectful to the teacher. There is no reason why someone should treat another person that way.
Well, and from what it sounds like, she was the one that asked to see your papers. You're not the one that asked for her opinion.
Exactly. And I guess my point was, teachers need to be conscious of their interactions with students. Whenever, if a teacher asks a question and the student answers and you really don't react to their answer and you just ignore them, even a simple action like that can be devastating for a student. Yeah. It basically proves to them that their opinion really doesn't matter, they're wrong, and they're insignificant, and that's not a good place for a student to be, because it'll damage other aspects of their, academic life. And
their life academically and not academically.
Oh, exactly.
One of the things that I do as a life coach is I help people to understand that their little nods or innuendos or small little things that they do when they're responding to other people, people know. People can read that body language.
Mm-hmm.
If your child comes into the room and all you see is their messed up hair and their shoes are untied, and you make a face without realizing that you made a face.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. I guess that comes back to the whole saying of actions speak louder than words.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, just being conscious of the things that you're doing and how you're disrespecting the people that you love. I mean, I've had people that I've taught with the coaching that have really turned their family around by recognizing things like if they don't pay attention to what's wrong when their kids walk into the house or something, if they greet them at the door and love on them, what a huge difference that makes. And like I said, greet them at the door. Show them that you are glad that they are there.
Definitely. I mean, I think that could apply to us in everyday life, too.
Absolutely.
Be kind to people. Greet them. Be respectful. Be conscious of their emotional state. Like, people will say, well, I didn't know how they were feeling. I do believe that people are far more perceptive than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. It's a good thing you guys can't see my facial expressions back here, I'm telling you.
And there's so much that people don't understand in others, like because somebody's different. They'll treat them differently, and that gets back to the bullying and things like that we discuss all the time. But even without outwardly bullying, I mean, you can ruin a person's, a child's, like the way that they feel about themselves, their self-esteem and their self-respect, just by small things that you do, by looking at them wrong, or saying something that's, saying something that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's just disrespectful. Like you were saying, Donnie.
Yeah, I remember when my friend Cindy was on a show a few weeks ago, and she was sharing a story about she loves to sing, and in high school she was singing in front of a group of people, and I think it was either the class. I think it was a classroom setting, and she was trying to sing something, but the conductor was just like, "Okay, just stop and go sit down," and completely embarrassed her in front of
right.
Yeah, and for a long, long time, she really didn't want to sing in front of people. She didn't feel the passion to sing because of that one action that a teacher made.
Yep. I know when my kids were in elementary school and middle school, I used to go into their classrooms and teach creative writing and poetry to the classes. And there was also some other schools that had me come in to do that for their classrooms, and it was always so much fun for me. But it always kind of caught me off guard. It caught me off guard at the beginning because the teacher would always come to me afterwards and say that they really appreciated how respectful I was to the kids and that I really taught them and that they were all paying attention. And she said, I don't know how you keep the kids' attention for that long and still keep them interested. And active in participating.
And
I can't really say what it is that I do. I mean, I just do what I do.
I think acknowledging the students is what it is.
Yeah.
Like just seeing them, interacting with them, that keeps their attention, because then they're like, oh, my teacher actually does care about me, and she cares about my opinion. And I've noticed that with my students too. Like I equalize myself with them. A lot of teachers try to raise themselves on a high pedestal above their students, and naturally that's going to discourage students from wanting to interact with that person because they feel inferior. It's important, obviously it's important to demonstrate authority, but you can't make yourself seem like that you're better than everyone else. And I think a lot of teachers, especially the ones that we've described who have done horrible things or said horrible things, they could benefit from that type of philosophy. And the way I look at it is just they need to place themselves in the student's shoes. Like, would they want someone to be talking to them that way? Probably not.
Right.
Well, most people, too, is they think young people, and I'm going to call them young people, they think that young people don't know, and that, they won't be bothered by that or whatever, and there's no respect there. There's no equality. So, Jane, what you were doing with this class is you were giving them the equality, that they were equal to you. And like Donna said, most of them think that, okay, well, I'm up here, I'm a teacher, and I don't have to be down there, but yet don't talk down to them. Talk to them as if you're their equal. And you get a lot of kids that respond to that. That's the key.
It was always so interactive. I mean, I'd come in with a worksheet for them to fill out, and they'd have everybody had a different postcard with a different animal or insect or something on it. Everybody had something different, and they were supposed to fill out this worksheet. Before we first start, I hand out the picture and I say, who thinks that they can write a full story front and back about this picture overnight? And everybody's like, there's no way I could do a whole story front and back overnight. That's like, no. And then I say, we're going to do this worksheet together, and it has 8 different areas, and then I start asking them questions, and they fill in the graph and the different squares, and I'm just asking them about different things that pertain to the picture, like what do you think that creature is thinking about right now? Before that creature came into that scene, where do you think it was coming from?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking off over here. What do you think it's looking at? And just getting their opinion about what they think is going on. And then after they have this whole big sheet of different ideas and stuff of what they think might be going on. And then by the time we get done, I said, now who thinks that they can write this overnight? And they're like, oh, yeah. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, this will be fun.
You opened their eyes to that, to understanding that they have the ability to do it.
Right.
Well, it's part of that creativity. You open the creativity part of their brain, too, instead of making them go within the thoughts.
And giving them the power to do it.
Right.
To show them that they can, and they could do it again. This wasn't just a one-time thing. I showed them how to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Just follow the same process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Well, it is time for a break. And would you guys like to go to a break?
Okie doke.
All right. And here we go. We'll be back in about 4.5 minutes. See you on the flip side. And welcome back to Universal Journeys with Dr. Brenda L. Bates and Donnie Winter on Mystical Awakenings Radio. We have a guest in today, and her name is Jane Saylor. She's here with us and very knowledgeable about this information. If you'd like to call in, our call-in number is 347-850-8292. All right, here we are. Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay, Jane, so we were having a very interesting conversation off the air. And
in the back room, as Brenda puts it.
In the back room, yes. I couldn't think of the word to describe it. I was just like, is it the back room or backstage? Yeah. Anyway, it would be very interesting. I think what you were talking about was extremely interesting, and I figured you would want to explain it to the rest of the world listening.
Sure. Before we left for break, we were talking about how much of an impact teachers have on kids' lives and how they can teach them creativity and different aspects that they don't really realize that they are able to do. There was a teacher, and her name is Jane Elliott. She taught a first or second grade class, and this was back in the 1960s. It was the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and she came into the classroom and told her students that we're going to start something new today. I want everybody with blue eyes to go on this side of the room. We're going to move everybody's seats, and I want everybody with brown eyes to be on this side of the room. And everybody separated and, didn't have a problem with that. And she gave the blue-eyed kids, everybody had to wear to school for the next few days this little neck collar or a bow tie or something around so that they were able to be seen even out on the playground from a distance that they were the blue-eyed people. And the next thing you know, Mrs. Elliott, Jane Elliott, is telling the students, okay, now the brown-eyed people are superior to the blue-eyed people. And the brown-eyed people aren't allowed to play anymore with the blue-eyed people. You're not allowed to do that. And you're not allowed to interact with them at all. When they would have class time and someone raised their hand, if it was a blue-eyed person, and they raised their hand and they might answer the question and they might answer it wrong, and she would say, well, of course you got it wrong. You're a blue-eyed person. Of course, something like this ethically wouldn't be able to happen today. This could only have happened in the time that Jane Elliott did this in the 1960s. There's a lot of ethical reasons and stuff that could not happen today. But Mrs. Elliott took this to the nth degree, and it was so impactful in these kids' lives. After a few days, she switched it, where the brown-eyed people had to wear this collar, and the blue-eyed people, she said, okay, now today, the blue-eyed people are superior than the brown-eyed. And everybody with blue eyes, you are just so much more superior, and, you do this and you do this, and the brown-eyed people, they're not any good. And she noticed that when they were having time alone with her, she'd sit around a table with 3 or 4 children and teaching them a little, a little process of addition or whatever. She noticed that the kids who had the collars on and were the ones that she had alienated were doing so poorly, and they were good students that, prior to this. They were doing so poorly on their addition or whatever it was that they were asked to do, and it was because they were so busy worrying about not being good enough. The whole process, if you look up, I think it might be on YouTube, but if you Google it, it's called Brown Eyed Blue Eyes, and her name is Jane Elliott. Because she took this whole process into a corporate setting later and then into prisons and really made a big impact on how diversity was so important that you can't put people down and things like that. And think about it. During the 60s, this is a time where there was still a lot of segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And, for her to be doing this, like I said, there would be no way that this could ethically happen today. But she made a huge impact on these kids' lives. In this movie, Brown Eyed Blue Eyes, they bring the kids back to meet with her after they're grown and out of school and have families of their own. And they bring these kids back, and all these kids remember that process, and that so impacted all of these kids' lives so much about diversity and not putting other people down, and what a difference this one individual made, and it just impressed me so much.
Mm-hmm. And that difference that she made stemmed from her creativity.
Exactly.
And what's beautiful about moments of creativity like that is when a teacher teaches, students learn, and then they go out and then they teach what they learn as well, so it spreads.
Yeah.
And I think that is what the creativity of teaching should be. It should be inspiring other people who want to learn and to want to spread what they learn. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be teaching, too. I mean, everyday life, we're going around and we're learning new things from other people, and we're spreading that knowledge. And I think we have, like I was saying earlier, a greater influence than we realize. Whether or not that is a positive influence, that is our choice to make.
Yeah, I agree. And, unfortunately, these days, I think that the school districts and the state and everybody are so concerned about test scores and how much money we're going to get because the kids did this well, or things like that the teachers, a lot of times I've noticed when my kids were growing up, they're not allowed to be creative. They've got this lesson plan that they need to teach in this way, and that's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really sad.
It is really sad. And I think I posted something on Facebook about that today. Oh, what was it? It was, what did it say? Let me try to remember. It was something about if your purpose for learning is to score well on a test, then we've lost track of what the real reason for learning is. And I saw that, and I was just like, share 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000 shares.
No kidding.
And see, I'm thankful because at the college level, it's more lenient than it is at the high school level and lower. We have more opportunities to be creative as teachers, but the high schools depend so much on funding from the state and the federal government that they have to abide by these novel-esque regulations and rules in order to get what they need in order to teach. And a lot of the time, they do not get the resources they need at all,
right.
Which that not only severely hampers the creativity of the teacher and their well-being, but also the well-being and creativity of the students.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
yeah.
It still kind of extends into the college level too. I've been taking a bunch of different classes, and I still have to take exams and stuff, which I remember I posted a status on Facebook about having to take an exam, and another master's student from a different school was like, you have to take exams? Like, you're not supposed to in a master's program. And I was just like, well, I have to. I have no other choice. And that's another example. I don't know. Testing, I think, is very flawed. It does not assess my ability to to analyze things. It doesn't assess my ability to be creative. It doesn't assess my intelligence. The only thing it assesses is how well I remember things. I mean, I can just spout off anything from memory.
And so many people have test anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That testing is not an efficient way to do that. If they were to sit down with a teacher one-on-one, which, clearly there's not time to do that, but these kids know the information, but put a test in front of them or tell them it's a quiz, at the college level. I'm in my 50s. I've got a friend that I'm going to college with, and she's in her late 40s, and she still has test anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
She said, if she hears that word quiz, she's like freaking out. Like,
yeah, I'm the exact same way.
Yep.
The exact same way. And see, people don't realize when you're taking an exam or even something as simple as a quiz, in the classroom setting, when people are done, they're moving around, they're leaving, you feel bad because you're still stuck there working on it and you feel dumb. And
right.
When I get into that mindset where there's a limited amount of time and people are leaving before me, I panic and I forget everything. Like I can't function.
Exactly like you said, you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, they're done already? Holy crap, and I'm only on this number here, and and then all of a sudden you start really derailing yourself.
Mhm. And I've sat down and I've tried to calm myself. I've tried to meditate in my mind. But then if I do that, then I completely run out of time because I'm dedicating too much time to, and it's just either way, it's kind of a no-win situation. And I guess at the university I go to, we have undergraduate classes that grad students can take for credits for their master's degree. And what really makes it difficult for me is I'm usually the only grad student in an undergraduate class. And I always have people assuming that, I get all A's and that I'm super smart and can do anything. And when I don't, they notice.
Yeah.
And it comes down to that whole impostor syndrome feeling. And that's another variable that, impairs my ability to, do the best that I can do.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree. And it's kind of intimidating, too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I figured, I'm in my second semester, and I figured by now I would at least be over that. Oh, no.
Not so much.
I'm better at coping with it than I was at first, but still, it's very difficult. Definitely.
Ah, what the heck? Just get older and say the heck with it.
That, honestly, at this point in the semester, that's exactly how I feel. I'm just it is what it is. It'll turn out the way it turns out.
Yeah, the thing is we put too much on what other people say. We put too much on it. And I'm getting up there in age, a little older anyway. And
Come on, I told my age.
Yeah. Well, I'm 53, so I'm getting up there in age, and I'm noticing more and more that I don't care what people say. I'm getting to, they're still itsy-bitsy things, but it's say what you're going to say. I don't care. I really don't care. If you want to, that's your issue. That's not mine. And who was it? Anthony Hopkins has this little thing, or someone quoted him, and it's on Facebook, and he says something to the effect that I don't care what people say, that's their problem, not mine, or something like that. And, it's none of my business what they say. That's actually what he said. It's none of my business what they say. It's their issue.
That reminds me of I can't remember this is a long time ago, a quote from a long time ago from a man, and I can't remember who it was, but he said, what other people think of you is none of your business.
Yep, that's basically what he said, yep.
Definitely.
And if we can think about that, if we think about that, and we really think about that, it doesn't make any difference. That's their stuff. That's not your stuff. There's something in there with them that they're jealous that you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's a nitpick. You know,
Definitely.
You're doing right, and they're like, I got to find some fault in someone else so I don't see it in myself.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a caller on the line. Do we want to take the caller?
Yeah.
And the caller can tell us whether or not, the caller can tell us whether or not he wants to be on hold and just kind of listen or what. So, well, I have more than one caller. Okay.
I was going to say, what are we supposed to say? No, let's not take a caller.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Hello? Okay, we're going to put you back on the listening mode.
Well, right?
Is there somebody else then after that?
No. At the same time that I was actually getting the other caller on here, I was receiving a call, too.
Oh, jeez.
You're so popular.
Well, only during radio shows.
That's not true.
No, I know that's not true. Sometimes it's a little more popular than I want, but hey, it is what it is.
So I was reading an article today because I was doing some research before we do. I usually do before we do our show, and I read this article, this very interesting article about this yoga teacher who is also a Reiki master, and she also she not only uses Reiki to heal humans, but she also uses it to heal animals as well. Are you guys familiar with what Reiki is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. I didn't know how I was going to explain it anyway. But, well, I guess I do know how to explain it. Just kidding. Reiki, for those of you listening, is a tradition that comes from Japan. It originates in Japan, and basically, it's not.
Hello?
Did we lose him?
I'm
Can
thinking
you guys
we
hear
lost
me?
him. Oh, there you go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, I don't know what the heck just happened. Anyway, so Reiki originated in Japan, and it is done by a trained person who strategically transfers energy throughout a person's body or removes the energy. And I found it very interesting that this person also did it for animals because she has received some kind of misinterpretations from people because everyone assumes that Reiki is associated with some form of religious practice, and it isn't. And the thing that she said that really stood out for me was labeling the energy isn't important, but the intention is what's important. Because creatively, when we're in the act of doing something creative, we're putting energy out there, and people who see it are always trying to judge that energy. Again, it comes back to that whole critique that a lot of people try to do. And from now on, I think I'm just going to start telling people that, labeling what I do isn't important, but, the feelings I have about what I do, that's the important part, I guess.
Well, and you bring up a valid point there. And actually, it was originated by Dr. Usui in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he didn't have necessarily a spiritual practice as in or a belief system. He knew that he was meditating one time or several times, and he received this information from a divine source, and then he put it into practicality. Once he honed the skills and things like that and got the message about the symbols, then he went out and he taught, you could say, practitioners. Okay? Then the practitioners, once they learned it and were attuned to these symbols, went out and helped other people. And then through the centuries and stuff like that, it came to Hawaii. In Hawaii, there was a gal there, and I can't remember what her name was. And she taught there, and then from there it came to the United States. So, I can also say that when I learned Reiki, or how to do Reiki and attune to Reiki, I was doing it naturally. And my natural ability to heal, even though it didn't have a name, it was still just as strong as the Reiki part of it. Now, when I tried to switch from Reiki to there, I felt my own ability lacking. It kind of suppressed it. And I felt that my own healing ability was much stronger than what the Reiki symbols were. However, the symbols are very strong in themselves. I've used several of them to help.
Do you think that you feel like your way was stronger for you, though, because you were used to it? That's just what you knew. It was so ingrained in you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was natural.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just talking about it, my hands turned on.
Yeah, it's not something that you tried to do. It's just something that you did.
Yeah, it's just something I did. But I did incorporate, the symbols and stuff like that. And there's one I particularly enjoy using. I haven't used it in quite some time, but I mean, I remember them, and it is very plausible. It does help. I remember getting a Reiki treatment from my friend Joy, and she was at one area of my body, which is my abdomen area, and then I didn't realize that she had moved, but she moved to a different area, and there was still that warmthness, felt like her hands were still there. And we have what is called Reiki guides. The guides will continue to do the work in those areas while that individual will move around, and they will get information from their guides too.
Gotcha.
So, and really all you are is a conduit for the divine energy that's coming in. I mean, yes, I believe focus has a lot to do with it, because when you tune in, that's because what you're doing is you're tuning into the body. You're focusing on that particular area of the body. You can do a lot of stuff with Reiki.
I've had Reiki treatments before. It's a very amazing experience.
It's just totally awesome. I mean, you can balance, you can heal, you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can detach entities. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. Very, very beneficial.
Definitely. I think when we were talking earlier about people having an intuition, I think like what you were talking about, Brenda, you ended up realizing that your own method of tuning into things was effective for you. And I think a lot of people have that themselves. They just don't realize it. They're always trying to, even for myself, for example, I've been so used to doing readings for people with cards or runes, and you helped show me that I don't even need those to do that. Like, I can tune into their energy without having these different implements to do it for me, I guess.
Yeah, and they're all props. They're props.
Yeah, and not that they're not useful and not that they don't have their own, specific awesomeness, but that's a horrible word to use, but I couldn't think of another word. But
okay.
I think people need to understand that they have more capability than they see. And I think if they realize that, their creativity would flow much, much more smoothly.
Well, and part of the thing is with that, is they don't know what it is that they have. Not everybody is able to tune into energy or feel energy or see energy or, hear. So when they tune into their creativity or their intuition, they need some background that needs to be labeled for them to say, okay, how are you doing this? It's like you explain the different, clairvoyance, clairsentient, clairaudience, and there's some other clairs there too, but those are the main basic ones. If you tune them in and explain to them what those are, they will be better able to use that creativity. Now, with Reiki gets rid of all of that stuff, and you just pretend, some people pretend, that the energy is there. They can't feel the energy coming out of their hands. You know, they've done the ritual of, you know, invoking, technically you can call it evoking the symbol and the guides and stuff, but they don't feel that energy coming out of their hands. So they're like, okay, I don't know if it's working or not. The only confirmation that they get is from the customer or client that's laying on that bed.
Right.
Reiki table.
I can remember when I first got divorced and my kids were 11 and 7. I sat them on the floor. We all sat Indian style facing each other, and I had them put their hands up, and we each went around and we had our hands a few inches away from each other, you know, in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them, okay, I want you to try and feel my energy. Well, I had my son on one side, my daughter on the other. And my son says, it feels buzzy. I said, yeah, that's it. My daughter says, I don't feel anything. I said, that's okay. My son says, I can feel it. It feels like something's pushing against my hand. And I said, yeah, that's exactly it. My daughter says, this is weird, Mom. I know. I said, I know it is. Just hang on. But my son could feel it. My son could feel it, and my daughter couldn't. And, you know, it still continues to this day that he kind of gets it with the energy, and she has always been more, you know, when I start talking about, you know, the past is the past, and you know, when I said that a second ago about the past, now that's in the past. And then she's like, oh, my God, Mom, stop. And I said, no, okay, now that's in the past. You know, the only thing we can think about is right now. And I said, now, and I mean now. I said, I don't mean then when I just said now, I mean now. And she's like, oh, my God, Mom, stop.
You're good at that. You're good at that. No, what you did with your children, sitting them down cross-legged, that's just one part. But when you had their hands out, when you held their hands out, that's what I do with my basic intuition classes.
Good.
Is I have the students sit across from each other, and you know, Jane, sitting across from each other, and I have them close their eyes and put their hands up, you know, in front of the individual, and see what they can feel, hear, touch, or smell, you know. And I don't mean touch. I mean there's like something touching them. And you would be amazed at some of the ways that people get information out of the energy of the body or from the energy of the body. So what you did is totally awesome with your children, and your daughter just receives information differently than your son does. That's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all.
Because she's very, very practical. I mean that's more of who she is, but she gets it. I mean, she's got a really strong intuition, and she follows it, and she does a good job.
Yep, but you know, you have engineers, and you have those logical scientists and stuff like that. They use their intuition differently. They wouldn't call it that, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
they're going on hunches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
Oh, go first, Jane. Sorry.
I was just going to say the hunches too. We get back to right back to what we started the conversation with. You know, the hunch has to do with our creativity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Creativity, it functions at different wavelengths for different people, and I think being conscious of that helps us better understand everyone else's creative outlets and their processes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you can name it, you own it. You understand it. They just got to have a name to it for some people. You know, I had no idea when I was growing up, and I felt that when people were talking about me, and I had no idea, and come to find out that they were talking about me. I had no idea I was picking up on that. It was part of telepathy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is amazing stuff. I mean, we all have it. It just depends on how much we want to work with it and understand it
Mhm.
and trust it. Trust is a big thing. But at the same time as trusting, you always have to challenge it. Because when you challenge it, what I mean by that is not everything that you get in, or the guides, you could say, not all of them are right for you. Not all of them should be with you. So you test them. You have to challenge them. I mean, I remember this is one of the things that I used to do because I used to drive from Osceola to West Branch, and that's about a 45-minute drive. And there's about three stoplights in between those particular areas, or maybe 4. So every time that I would come toward a stoplight, if there was a vehicle in front of me, I would say, okay, guys, which way are they going to turn? And this is even before they got there. And they told me, or I received, and not that I really heard it, but I felt it, and they would say, okay, they're going to go to the left. And it's like, no, sorry, they went straight. All right, try again. You know, that's so I kept doing that. And when I did that, it also helped me to build trust with them. And I'm telling you what, there are a couple guys that I got rid of. And the reason I got rid of them is because they were nasty. They had bad mouth. It's like, I don't want you. Go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they have to leave. But this is just something that I did. This is something I experienced. And then, of course, I have one, or had one, I don't know if I do now or not, who was really funny and jolly, and I like that. I like that fact that they were that way because that brought in a different aspect for me. So, I mean, it's just, so there are different ways, different things, and people receive things differently. And you name it, you own it, you got it.
Now, Brenda, is that similar to the way that I do something similar, but different? When I'm driving down the road and I know that a stoplight or something is going to be coming up, and I'll just be telling myself, well, when I get there, it's going to be green. It's going to be green, and it is. It's always green.
And, yep.
Or when I pull into a store or something, and I think, I gotta which road do I need to go down to find the parking spot that's close? Okay, this one. Yep, thank you. I'll go down this one, and then I go down that one, and yep, there it is, right there. Okay, thank you.
Yep. It's because you're putting that energy out there. You know, you're looking for something like that, and it happens. I mean, it's all a part of. I'm trying to remember the secret. I mean, that is, they did mention that fact in The Secret. And it does work. It's like, okay, you put out there that you want a parking spot up in, close to, I don't care, any store, Walmart, we'll say Walmart. You say, all right, you imaged it, you said that's where I want that spot to be. And when you get there, that spot will be there. It takes a little bit not for it to happen, but for you to have faith that it is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, because when you know that this is what is going to happen, it's going to happen. But if you doubt it, guess what? It's not going to happen. But that's the same type of thing, Jane. I've practiced with that too.
And I've done that in traffic in the Metro Detroit area too, when I'm stuck in traffic or running late. And I just start thinking about, okay, well, either I'm missing something that could have hurt me, or there's some reason why I'm running late, and I just got to let it go and not be frustrated about it, and everything's going to be okay, and I'm going to get there when I'm supposed to get there, and and everything always is okay.
Right. And sometimes we don't realize it. Sometimes the delays are for a reason.
Right. Like I said, there might have been an accident that because I'm not up there at that time, that, that something might have happened to me if if the traffic wasn't there to stop me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that goes back to creativity too, because you have to be creative enough to be able to even think that.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely. And you have to be conscious. You have to be conscious of it, and you have to, I think people who embrace their creativity are like that. People who don't, you can tell that they don't embrace it. They're either very suspicious of everything, or they're very doubtful of themselves in every way. And if you can tell a person based on whether or not they respect their creativity, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I remember reading something some time ago that people who cannot read very well, or are dyslexic, or have other impediments, I'm going to just use that word, they are the ones who become spiritual because they're using other senses within the body to get the knowledge that they are seeking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that's definitely possible. If people are often told that they're wrong, or that, because I know a lot of dyslexic people are criticized by, especially in school, by teachers, and after a while, after dealing with that criticism, I think they use their senses in order to find a new sort of creative outlet, if that makes sense. And I think that intuition is a creative outlet.
Well, it kind of goes back. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, you go first, Brenda.
I was going to say, and it kind of goes back to if you have something wrong with you, say that you're blind, the other senses become more aware, more accurate, more, dominant. And this could be kind of sort of that way too, or looked at that way.
It's interesting that you bring this up, because remember earlier when I was telling you about that story where, for a year or more, I did not write anything?
Mm-hmm,
in that
right.
year, that was the year where I developed my intuition.
See?
Exactly. I didn't have that creative outlet that I used, so I used my senses to create a different creative outlet. And I think this just goes to show that people need to be open to other creative outlets, too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I thought that was profound, analysis there. I'm like, wow, I never really thought about that. Is that why I'm this way, this, Because I always look, when I read stuff, I always look to see, okay, how does it pertain to me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost in everything that I do or come into contact with. How does this pertain to me, and what do I need to learn from it and take away from it? And I think by doing that, I've learned a lot more, and I'm able to accept people for who they are. Don't get me wrong. There are times when I'm like, I don't even want to do nothing with that one. But for the most part, it's interesting.
Do you think, Brenda, that, for instance, with me, that it might have been, all of the trauma and stuff that I went through as a young person that brought around my intuition and being able to have faith in another area?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I absolutely do. And if you weren't going to come up with that, I was going to tell you that.
Okay.
And see, that's another thing. With trauma,
mm-hmm.
trauma does the same thing. And believe it or not, when you lose someone or you're in an accident, it is amazing how things all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, this turned on. What happened here? The loss of a loved one, or an accident. And I was like, oh, my gosh. Mindy could tell you that, too, because Mindy's in the chat room. But this is sometimes, these are the trigger points that get us to say and get us out of the old paradigm and into a new paradigm. So it's little things like that does this.
Definitely.
They tell us there's much more out there than what we know or imagine or can imagine, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's right there. Some people, unfortunately, when this does happen, they become very afraid. And then they close down, and then they, guess what? They start to get headaches. Headaches is not cool.
Headaches or depression or, a bunch of different things.
Yeah. Yep.
You recognize you're talking about me right now, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it just came out that way. But when you said home, I'm like, oh, wait a minute here. But I mean, this is something that I've noticed on my journey.
Yeah.
Okay. I come across a gal when I first started on my path, and I used to work with her, and she would have these terrible, terrible migraine headaches. And she would always have to go get shots to get rid of them, okay? And then one time, just out of the blue, we started talking about spirituality. And like I said, this is something I was getting into. And she had told me when she was 16 years old, she was giving this information to these people and everything else, and all of a sudden she saw an accident happen before it happened, and when it happened, that freaked the heck right out of her. She shut down. That's when she started to get the headaches.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in other people after that, I mean, there was a pattern there. People get these migraines they don't realize. My niece, she gets information all the time, but she half-heartedly believes in what I tell her because she just does. But she gets migraines, and I tell her, Kendra, you just have to open up a little bit. You have to relax. There are things out there that are trying to communicate with you. Not that I was I didn't quite say it that way. Because sometimes when you say it that way, it freaks the crap out of them, and I don't want to do that. But, it is like, and it's just that you got to slow down and open up a little bit and just relax. And I think that she actually has done that to a degree because I haven't heard that she's had a headache so much anymore.
Yeah.
So it only takes a little bit to use that intuition because a lot of times, some faiths tell you that it is the devil's work, and I'm telling you it's not. You don't have to go on my word about it, but through my experience and everything else, that's not the case. That is opening up to the divine source, the natural source of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, your life gets better. You don't have so many headaches. I mean, it just things seem to start to fall into place.
Definitely.
And so Jane, have you had headaches lately?
Oh yeah.
Have you been?
Almost.
How about let's say a little bit differently. Since you've been on our show, several different times we've talked about things like this. Have you noticed it as much afterwards?
I have them as often, but they're not as severe.
Okay. So that means right there that you're opening up in a different way than you would normally do. Because I'm telling you, you're using your creativity. What they're trying to get you to do is open up a little bit more than what you've already opened up into a different form of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because like your friend Kendra, I'm also getting shots every 3 months and taking a daily preventative, and then I have a pill that I take when a migraine comes on, and it's just crazy.
Right. And I really do, and I'm sorry to be giving you a reading here, but for you, and I've thought this for many years, especially when you have the sensitivity to light, is, are you opening up to see what they're trying to show you? It's like you don't want to see, so you're blinding yourself.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. So, because I know before you didn't have this, and then all of a sudden, how many years have you been going through with this?
Since 2010, I had a accident where I worked where I hit the back of my head, and I noticed it started after that. Yep.
So there was healing that needed to be done there, and so it was another avenue that was open. I mean, there are other things that are going on there, but it's like you're not wanting to see. And I believe at that time, that particular time, you really didn't like being there anyways.
I didn't like being there anymore. They had asked me to do a job that I wasn't happy with doing.
Yes.
They kind of roped me into doing a job that I didn't want to do. They knew that I was nice enough that I would say okay because they needed the help.
Right. But that wasn't something that you were supposed to do.
No, and it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. It really made a difference. Yeah, it really made a difference in how I didn't like my job anymore. Well, and it changed you. Yeah. So, unfortunately, this bump on the back of the head, and I say a bump because, I mean, it was pretty severe, but the bump on the back of the head was a way for you to get out. Yeah, because I saw stars. I hit it good. I think I had a concussion. But that was in November of 2010 when I hit my head.
Yeah, I remember.
And then I had to stop working by in February I took the family leave, and then I couldn't come back. I ended up having to quit my job in the beginning of April, and I haven't been able to work since. Right.
But look at all the things that it has done for you so far since you've been off. Look at what you were able to accomplish, and you continue to accomplish.
Okay.
So it's like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Even though you've had to go through some of the things you've had to go through.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that isn't all of the things that are going on, but it is some of the things that are going on. So,
right.
So it's kind of interesting how all of this kind of ties into the same thing in the manner of speaking. It's about opening up and realizing your creativity, not having it suppressed, also being aware of it, naming it, going forward with it, understanding it, and it's an amazing journey. Is it easy? Not in your life.
No, no. I know. Right now, I'm working on forgiveness. Forgiveness for myself, forgiveness to myself, and forgiveness for the people in my life who had created such severe trauma for me. So it's a process, and it's not easy. And I know it's for so many years I've been really good at putting on a mask. And I didn't even recognize that I was getting up in the morning and putting on that mask.
It was just natural?
It was just natural, you know. It's just like I'm a positive person, and I'm not going to let anybody see this horrible side of me, and I'm just going to pretend like it didn't happen, and, you know, I mean, it went on for years.
Did you see what you just said?
What's that?
Did you see what you just said about seeing?
No, tell me.
Blinders?
Tell me.
About how you just explained that you didn't want anybody to see, and so you kind of put blinders on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. And that's why you're having a little bit of an issue. So, I mean, with that, and there's, like I said, there's some other things going on there, too. But
Yeah.
it's just there. And it's an onion peel. Everything is an onion. It's a layer, another onion. It's like, taking it off until you get down to the itty-bitty center there.
Yeah.
And dang, there's a lot of layers.
Thanks, I think.
No, I'm not saying for just you. It's for everyone. Because I'm thinking when I said that about the layers, I'm thinking, dang, I had a lot of layers. I gotta still get rid of.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, oh, preaching to the choir.
I know, right?
But on the other side, I can tell you that we have a lot of loving spirit guides or individuals on the other side who are always there to help us, to give us nudges, to say, okay, there is something different here. There's more to it than what feeble minds, I'm going to say feeble minds, our feeble minds believe. Because spirit is real. We just have to go forward and lift up and let everything else go. Whew, that felt good. Literally.
Heck, well, we could definitely feel that.
Whew. Wow, I don't know where that came from, but wow.
Cute.
It's like, I think I just got rid of something here.
I felt that too. When you were talking about getting headaches, Jane, from from the trauma, the built-up trauma that you have experienced, I think it also varies between individuals. Because whenever I go through something and I don't cope with it, it feels like a really, really heavy chain with an anvil attached to it hanging from my neck.
Yeah.
And I feel so unbelievably depressed when that happens. And I discovered that connecting my recovery from that trauma activity was the key for me to heal from it. And, I mean, from the sounds of it, you're a very, very creative person. So if you ever get in a rut, I think that may be beneficial for you too. Because I remember when that teacher told me that horrible thing and I stopped writing, that's when I started feeling that chain. Like it weighed me down every single day, and it did not get lighter, and it did not dissipate until I started writing again.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think we need to go to the break because we're at actually the bottom of the hour instead of the top of the hour.
Oops.
And welcome back to Universal Journeys Radio with Dr. Brenda and Donnie Winter. And we all owe this to Mystical Awakenings Radio. They are on Wednesday evenings from 7 to 9. And I do believe it's True Paranormal, who is on Friday nights at 7 to 9. So with that said, don't forget to follow your heart because you are the only one who knows which path is right for you. So, Donnie, take it away.
Okay, so before we get started up on our last segment of the show, I wanted to do a couple promotions. If you enjoy our show and you like what we talk about, feel free to like our Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and type in Universal Journeys, you should be able to find the page. It has a lovely picture of Dr. Brenda on the front, so you'll be able to recognize it. Or if you go into the URL bar and type in facebook.com/universaljourneys111, that is another way you can find it. Also, if you go to YouTube and type in my name, Donnie Winter, you'll be able to find my YouTube channel. I do a whole slew of videos about a bunch of different topics, so if you want to continue following us, or if you haven't started following us yet, definitely go do so. Back at you, Brenda.
Thank you, Donnie. And, Mindy is so cool. She's in the chat room. She's got this little guy typing on the computer. So if you would be my guest and put that in there for them, that would be awesome.
Hi, Mindy. We love you.
She's great. So we do have a caller who wants to talk, so let's get the caller back in. Hello, caller, and welcome.
Hello again. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Hi. No problem. We don't mind. As long as we got you coming on here. It's interesting how I knew that you wanted to come back on because you switched from the top of my call chain down to the bottom and then back up to the top. I was like, well, what better thing could that be? He wants to talk. And what's your name again?
So Jay calling from Canada.
Jay, okay. All right,
yes,
Jay, so what did you want to talk about? Mm-hmm.
You talk about creativity. I just find that technology is really, really bad for this right now, and I feel that we seem to do everything sequentially now in some sort of way. And, I feel that creativity is actually more about actually random access, like doing stuff like that, spur of a moment. If you look, people when they're going through their Facebook stuff, they're actually scrolling through all their whatever things on their Facebook page, and then getting to the point where they have to be, and then typing something in, right? So it's always sequential, right? And I find that that's really bad training for the mind. Another thing is that toys is really interesting too. You look at the Lego stuff, for example. Lego was really, really. When I grew up, we just had blocks, and we made something out of it. We found maybe something on like I was interested in a show where they had these little puppets, and I would make the spaceships like them. And we didn't have like the instructions they have now for all the branded toys that they have there in Lego, like Star Wars stuff and things like that, where you get a set of instructions, you make the thing. So. In any given instructions, you're not like, okay, here's some pieces and put it together yourself, because they're really complicated now for kids. So I think we're lost in that way too. And you're saying something about the school system too. Is that I'll give an example. We had an arts walk in our city about a couple of years ago, and this lady, and I looked at her stuff and went, well, that's really neat stuff. So the next year, when I saw her art, she was drawing something that was actually basically taught in school. Draw a certain way, do a certain thing, right? I feel that sometimes when you're creative, you have to be like a non-conformist of a person in some sort of way, because you do something out of the ordinary or something different than other people do. And what happens is that if you do something different than other people do, what they do is they rebel about it. So why are you doing that? So I find creativity is really a spark for getting things moving, especially when you're getting out of situations which may be, for example, life or death situations, but also the spiritual stuff. I feel that also it's a great way to tool for be open to the possibilities, right? So that's how I look at creativity is. But the thing is that I think people think we're not creative. I think we're just stuck in some sort of like a trance of not creative. Maybe it could be the way we have a lifestyle, maybe something that we're eating or something like that makes us not be creative. So, and maybe not their own path or something like that. So that's how I look at things, or creativity. So.
Well, but the creativity comes in different forms. I mean, that's why I mentioned about the scientist or the engineer, because their creativity comes in a different form. They may not realize that they're using that particular type of ability because they're so analytical. But yet they do use it.
Like we were saying, Brenda. Well, you were saying about the scientists and stuff having the hunches that, okay, well, this didn't do this, but maybe if I do this and this and this, I mean, their knowledge has helped them to be more creative. And if it wasn't for their knowledge of this and this, it wouldn't have led them to be able to have that creativity, to have that hunch.
Right. But they don't look at it as creativity. They just look at it as logic.
No, they do. They don't know what the rest of us know.
And we don't know what they know, but that's like, like the logical stuff. I mean, if it's not logical, if it's not written in stone, then it can't be possible. And to me, that's like, yeah, right.
Right.
I mean, we technically haven't proven God yet, but we have a lot of followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I sort of kind of went there, but I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I know. But the other thing is that the creative process is a learning one too. So it's not. I mean, when we're born, it's interesting. Maybe when we were walking, when we first learned to walk, when we were kids, right? We don't remember usually. Mm-hmm. Maybe the scars that maybe show us that we hit something when we fell down and walked, got up again. But the thing is, that was a creative process too, because you didn't go like, well, there's only one way to walk, and then I gave up. I mean, we didn't have. I think what happened is our blockages of we think we can't do it. I mean, look at even dogs, for example. And a dog, when it lost a leg, what happened? It learned to walk again, right? And had a creative way of walking, right? So, I mean, there's all sorts of things of creativity. You can look at plants too, seeking, growing too. So, I don't know. I just find that I think we're stuck in a dream. So a lot of people are stuck in a dream that they just don't want to break out of, and because it's easier not to use your mind than using it. And I just feel that it's just the truth out there. So
right. Well, and most of the time, creativity creates fear. I mean, I could give you an example of that. My father can't read or write. Okay, and I've given him ample amount of opportunities as I was growing up after I moved away and came back, of being able to learn how to read, okay, in the process of writing as well. But he did not. He says, nope. And look what it would have done for him. It would have opened up a whole new beautiful world that we can read words and stuff like that. But it was his fear, as in many people's fear, that creativity that would come about, that it would take something away from him that he has developed already. I mean, he's very in tune to vehicles. He used to be a very good mechanic. So he knew that. He knew what was going on to the older cars and stuff like that. He used to be able to tweak them and say, okay, you got, piston 2 going out, so on and so forth. So it is the fear of leaving a comfort zone into a no man's zone, we think. But when we do, we realize that there are other people who are out in this zone with us that can help us. But until we cross that proverbial line, we're never going to know.
You're right about the comfort zone, I think. Never right the comfort zone.
Well,
change. Change is the big word. I mean, just humans don't want to change.
Scary word.
It's a scary word. It's a very scary word. I mean, it's just taking that first step, that first leap of faith, I guess. So, you know what? You get to a point in your life. For me, I just got to take some chances because I look, okay, well, this is maybe the best opportunity to do something, right? I could do it whether I'm 50 or 70 years. So the thing is that, it's a great time to take chances right now. And then I'll fall down. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to fall down, and get back up again. So, but I'll take the right chances and go for it. But when it comes to creativity, I love creating my own books or creating my own whatever. So there's always creativity there. People paint. I don't know. Just do something where you can just express something, right? That's why there's so many groups out there, for anything you can think of. So the thing is, it's just maybe that's their creativity too, is exploring nature. So we really can't label it because people's creative is their uniqueness too, in their own special way. So
well,
yeah. So
And that's what I mentioned earlier in the show is part of this is, you're right, we can't label it for them, but maybe we can help them to understand what theirs is. And it really is just saying, okay, I'll give you an example. I'm clairvoyant, okay, and I'm clairsentient. So once I named those, then I understood. I'm like, okay, I got it. Before I didn't know, I was like, oh, this is freaky stuff. What is going on here? But until I understood it and there was a name to it, then I was scared. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's different. I mean, Jane has something different, you know. Donnie has something different. Our guests, you have something different. It's just different creativity. It's in you. You know something? I have to say, when you come in, you're born with it. That's why we have these geniuses out there, these prodigies and stuff like that. You're born with it. That's why you resonate with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to hone it, okay, but you're born with it. Because if you didn't like something that you were taught, are you going to do it? 9 times out of 10, no.
Mm.
Right?
Do you think though, Brenda, that sometimes people who are born with a gift don't go through life and don't have access to know that was their gift, so they end up not using it?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, and think about this too. It's a possibility only because someone in their younger years told them that it wasn't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. See, it all comes back down to that influence from other people. Like, one person says one discouraging thing, it can completely destroy that creativity for an individual.
Absolutely.
I think another thing that impairs creativity, and I know we've talked about this in a prior show, is people's conception of time. Like, we live in a world that's so fixated on getting up, going to work, coming home, repeat, that people don't take the opportunity to be creative. They convince themselves that it's not something that's worth their time. And I think that's just as destructive as allowing a trauma to prevent a person's creativity too. Like, time isn't necessarily a variable, I think, because we were talking about the spontaneousness of creativity. Like, creativity isn't supposed to function on a timeline. I don't think it should, at least.
No, when you're in the flow, time can pass like nobody's business when you're in flow.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I'm the kind of person in the past I've always been like, oh, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm too busy. Or I will get to the point where I try to allocate time to be creative, and then I realize that even creativity isn't something that low on my list that I should have to allocate time for it. It should happen when it happens, when it's meant to happen, and I should allow it to happen when it's meant to happen.
True. And Mindy wrote something in the chat room. She says we all have gifts. It's up to us to develop them, and no free rides. And she said she tried. LOL.
I definitely agree with that.
Yep, no free rides. I have to agree with that too, because a lot of times we try to skate through life, and something happens to us to make us not do that. Be it we get tripped up, be it there's an accident, be it, we go back to the loss again, a loss of people in our lives. So there's something that always gets us out of that free ride range. Some people can do it pretty decently, but that's a balance they have to hone. And most of the time, people do end up, not most of the time, there are very few who can do that. And that goes back to Hermetics. Hermetics teaches you how to balance the lower energies so you can function and control yourself through those times. And it does happen. You can do it. It's just you have to balance yourself. I mean, that's what we were talking about, balance, when we first started.
Definitely.
Okay, what's it say?
I received a message from my friend Nathaniel, who is very in tune with me. Okay.
Yes, he
and
is.
Remember when I went boof and I was like, whoa, I felt that. He texted me a message and he says, "Alrighty, Missy, what happened?"
Gotta love it.
And see,
that's cute.
This goes back to another dynamic. We are all connected. We are not in a world of our own, okay, where no one else exists. That's not it. We're all connected. Okay, just because Jane and Donnie and now Jay has become part of this, Mindy has become a part of this, some of the other people, is now we're all connected. Once we've connected to one another, more than once, I believe, we are connected to those people. Mm-hmm. So we come back. And that energy, there's something there that we're doing. And, just like right now, we're doing things. But we're all connected. And it kind of tears me up a little bit when we think that we're our own island. And we're not. So when we hurt one person, we hurt all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it goes right back to the Native American teachings. What you do now affects 7 generations out.
Yep.
Yep.
It's that whole sense of community. I like to think of it as a spider web. And whenever someone, we're all a certain aspect of the web, and if someone, snaps the web, we all feel it. It vibrates.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we become more conscious of what we are, about the things that we do ourselves and how we treat others, we're going to be better off. And we'll begin to make a better example for all the generations that go before us or after us, however you want to look at it. And really, you really can't look at it that way either, because everything is happening on the same plane, on the same time, in different dimensions and stuff like that. Everything's happened at once. Past, present, and future. Poof, right there. What do you think about that, Jay?
I think that you put me on the spot, I guess.
That's part of my intuition.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's very good at that, Jay.
Yeah, she is actually. So,
yeah.
But
we love it.
Yeah. It just happens naturally.
I don't know. This creativity thing. I just feel, like I said, it's an individual, and I think we got to, we got to be more of it now than ever before to get ahead, if you want to say that, spiritually or the physical plane of earning money and things like that. So I would just get out of that dream state that we're in. So, but we're all connected actually. So I just feel that we are actually all connected. You get I'm into movies right now, and you think about these these people who made these books and into movies and stuff like that, how they got inspired and things like that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got to think of like some like the Harry Potter movies and how the person made up those books. It just or it's kind of it works in that way too, that you do have the divine spirit guiding you in some of those ways too of not telling you how to write, but giving you inspiration to write. Probably a lot of people had that idea for Harry Potter a long time ago too. Just but one person took it to the fullest, really did it. So
right,
yeah.
Right. Especially in that area over there, in England, man, that's full of that history. Mindy states in the chat room, she says, there is no time and no space. In fact, it is ever increasing. Space is ever increasing. Okay? Now, have you guys seen the movie Interstellar?
No.
I have not.
Talk about
Not yet.
creativity. Okay, you got to see it. I mean, it's slow in the beginning, but once it gets toward the end, it's like amazing because in the middle of the show, there's things that's happening to this young girl that's trying, whatever this individual is or is trying to get a message to her. And by the end of the show, you realize what it is. I can't tell you because then it would take away the surprise. Interstellar, you talk about amazing foresight. Oh, my gosh, it was great. Like I said, it was a little slow at the beginning, but it's awesome. And the other one, too, to see, if you haven't seen it, is a movie called Lucy.
Yes.
I mentioned that in one of our other shows. Lucy is, like, mind-blowing.
It is. And, a lot of people put that, I know some people who are not, spiritual, and they said, that's a waste of my time. But if you look between what was actually going on after one part of the movie, of the drug scene movie, actually, you get, it's like, yeah, I get that. One thing that's interesting, whoever said this about Lucy, is that at the very end of that movie, where the only thing we have common is time, and that's very interesting. It's very, we tend to quantify this and quantify that, and it's just like, that's interesting concept, because we do actually do that. We label this and label that, and do this and do that, and then what happens? It gets so convoluted in all those labels and everything else that, oh gee, what the use is creating? It's all this other stuff. This is interesting. You got me now. You're talking about a movie about this. One of my things that I actually talk about.
We got 60 seconds left, though.
Well, okay. Well, there's a movie out there, Finding Forrester, and the person was stuck in writing, and so the person just write. Just do it. Just write anything. I don't care about falling out. Just write anything. So I just feel that's one thing about creativity. Just go do it, and don't care about falling down.
Good advice.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good advice to close on.
And everyone, thank you for being here tonight. We had a great show. Thanks, Jay, for being here. Thanks, Jane, Donnie, Mindy,
welcome.
All of the rest of our guests in the chat room. Thank you very much. And always remember, follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you, and that's exactly what we've been talking about tonight. Have a great week, everyone, and catch you next week.
Yes, you will.
Mm-hmm.